Now that we understand how PGP works, in this lecture and the next few lectures, I'm going to show you how to use it to encrypt all kinds of data, verify integrity, and so on. Now, as I explained in the previous lecture, for this to work, the receiver, which is John in this case, has to first generate a key pair, a public key and a private key. He will share the public key with the person who he wants to receive data from. That person, who is David in this example, will use the public key to encrypt the message, send the message to John. The message will be unreadable unless the private key is used to decrypt it. And as you can see throughout this whole scenario, the private key never left John. So John never shares the private key, and it is the only key that can be used to decrypt the data. Therefore, this implementation is very, very secure. So, like I said, the first step for this is the receiver needs to generate a key pair, a public key and a private key. So, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how we can create our own key pair so that we can share our public key with the people that we want to receive data from, and then they can use this public key to encrypt data and send it to us so that we are the only ones that can decrypt this data because we have the private key. So, in Tails, this is actually very, very easy. You can do it using the clipboard applet that we have in here on the top right. So you can click on it and go to manage keys. Now, in the recent versions of Tails, they've been moving this all over the place. So if you can't find it here, we can go to applications, utilities, and click on passwords and keys. This will open a program that can be used to manage all your passwords in Tails, but what we're interested in is managing our GNU PG keys. Now, clicking on this, as you can see, we have a number of entries by default. Do not delete these entries. These are actually keys used to verify the integrity of updates that Tails downloads and the integrity of packages that you can download through Tails and install on your system. So if you delete them, you won't be able to verify the integrity of these packages. So we're keeping everything here the same. And what we want to do, like I said, is create our own key pair so we can share our public key with others, so we can receive encrypted data that can only be decrypted by us. To do that, to create a key pair, you can click on the plus sign in here, or you can go on File, New. Like I said, this application allows you to manage all sorts of keys. What we're interested in is creating a PGP key. So I'm going to click on the second entry here, and I'm going to click on Continue. Now it's going to ask you for your name. So in my case, I'm using John Wick. Next, it's going to ask you for your email address. Now, it is very important to understand that the people that you'll share the public key with will be able to see your name and your email address. Therefore, if you want to stay anonymous and protect your privacy, make sure you use the fake name that you created when you created your fake identity, and make sure you use your private or anonymous email in here. In my case, it's jnck7@elude.in. We're also going to click on the advanced options to select the encryption type. I'm going to keep this at RSA because this is a very strong encryption. We're going to set the key strength to the highest possible, which is 4096. And you can also set an expiry date so that your key expires at the date that you specify in here. Now, this would be good if you want to take your security to the next level, but for this course, it's fine. I'm going to set it to never expire. I'll keep this ticked, and I'm going to click on Create to create my key pair. Now, it's going to ask me to set a passphrase for the key. Make sure you set a strong and long one. Click OK. And this program is going to generate your key pair. And as you can see right here, we have a new entry with my key pair. Now notice the icon here for this key pair contains two keys, a silver and a gold one. This means that this is a key pair. It contains a private key and a public key. Notice all of the other entries in here contain only one gold key, which means that these entries only contain a public key. So these can be used to encrypt data for someone else or verify the integrity of data, but there is no private key stored in here. Now, to get more information about any of these entries, you can right-click and click on Properties. And in here, you can see information about the owner. For example, the name, John Wick, like we said it. The email, again, the same email that we set it to. You can see the key ID, which can be used to verify the key, and we'll talk about that later. And if we go on the details, you'll also see the fingerprint, which can also be used to verify the key. We actually used this when we downloaded the Tor browser, if you remember. And as we go through this section, actually, you'll see how the verification steps we followed to verify the Tor browser make sense. And all of this will click with that. Now, from here, you can also export your secret key, which is something that you should never do because, like I said, we should never share the secret key. The secret key should always be kept privately. The only time that you might want to do this is if you're going to completely wipe the system and still want to use the same key. You might want to export this, store it in an encrypted USB device, and then put it on your next installation. Other than that, there is no need to export your key from here. From here, you can also set the expiry. So as shown before, we set the expiry to never, but if you change your mind, you can click on this icon and set the key to expire at any date you want. And going back to the names and signatures, you can see again your name and the email associated with this key, and you can click on add name to add more contacts to be associated with this key. But like I said, be very careful when you're doing this because these contacts will be visible to anybody that can see your public key. And like I said, in general, we will be sharing our public key with a lot of people because this is the way this works so that they can encrypt data and send it to us. So now that we have the key pair created, in the next lecture, we're going to talk about how to share our public key with our contacts, and then we'll see how that can be used to encrypt data and verify integrity. Now that we have our key pair generated, the next step is to share our public key with the people that we want to receive encrypted messages from, so that they can encrypt messages using our public key so that we will be the only people that can decrypt these messages because we have the private key. So in order to do this, you need to come to your passwords and keys. Like I said, you can access this from applications, utilities, and click on passwords and keys. As you can see, I have it already opened and I already selected my key pair, which I created in the previous lecture. Now, in order to export the public key, now keep in mind, we're exporting the public key, not the private key. We never share the private key, hence the name private key. So we're going to go to File, we're going to click on Export, and you need to select the location where you want to store your public key in. Now, I'm going to select my Tor browser directory because I want to share this through email, so I want to add it as an attachment. And as we know, the Tor browser can only access the Tor browser directory in Tails. That's why I selected this directory, but you can store it anywhere you want. Now, I'm also going to change the format from PGP to armored PGP. This won't really make a big difference. The reason why I'm doing this so that I can show you the content of the key as plain text. So we're done here. I'm going to click on Export. And that's it. It's done. So if I go to my home directory and go to Tor browser, you can see we have a file called johnwick.asc. And this is my public key that I can share with anybody so that they can encrypt data and send it to me. Now, you can literally attach this file the way it is. You can upload it to a file sharing service like I showed you, or use Onion Share. You can use any method of sharing this file. If you don't want to share it as a file, you can also right-click it, select Open with Other Application, select View All Applications, and select your text editor to open it with the text editor. If I click on Select here, you'll see we'll be able to read the file as normal text, and this way you can literally copy all of this and paste it anywhere you want. So like this, you can share the key without having to upload the file or attach it anywhere. You can copy this text, send it as an instant message, print it on a piece of paper and give it to someone. You can do anything you want with it. So you have two ways of sharing it. You can literally copy this text and send it to the person that you want to receive encrypted data from, or you can attach this file right here. And like I said, you can use any method of communication. It doesn't really matter how you send it. Now, just as an example, I'm going to be sending this as an email. So I've already logged into my webmail, as you can see in here. And what I want to do is send a message. So I'm going to click on Compose. I'm going to put the email of the person I want to send this to. So I'm sending this to another email account that I own for David Smith at elude.in. I'm going to set the subject and I'm going to call this my PGP key. And then you can write anything here if you want in the message. So we're going to say, please find my PGP key below. And you can literally just paste all of the text that you copied in here, like I said, and then they'll be able to use this key as text to encrypt data to you. And we'll see how you can do that. This is the first method of sharing your key. Like I said, you can also share the key file that we exported. To do that, we're going to use an attachment. So again, I'm going to click on Browse and select the key file that we have in here. We're already in the Tor browser directory. So you just double click this and that's added to the attachment. Now, like I said, you don't need to send both. I'm just showing you both here as an example, but only sending the key as a file or as text in here is enough for the other person to start encrypting data for you. Not only that, but you can even add this key to your signature. So every time you communicate with someone, they will see your public key, and if they wanted to, they can encrypt the data that they're sending to you using your public key, and this way nobody can read this data except you. A lot of people even put this in their profile page in forums and even in markets. So if you click on a certain account, you'll probably see their PGP key pasted like this, so that when you communicate with them, you would use this key to encrypt the data, and that way they will be the only people able to read the message because you encrypted it using their public key. So the whole idea is you want to share this with anybody that might want to communicate with you, so that when they send you something, you will be the only person able to read what they sent you. So we have the key here, we have it attached, we've already set the email and the subject. So I'm just going to click on Send to send this email. And I'm going to go to the other computer. This is David's computer, the person that is supposed to send messages to John. As you can see, I'm already logged into the email account as well. I'm going to refresh to see if I got anything in my inbox. And as you can see, I have a new message. We're going to go to the inbox. And this message is coming from John Wick. Perfect. So we're going to click on it. And again, as you can see, we have the key in both forms, as an attachment and as text. So now this is David. And if we go back to our diagram, David is the person that wants to send an encrypted message to John. So what John did is he created a key pair. He sent John the key pair. So we have the key right here. What we need to do right now is download the key. And in the next lecture, I'll show you how we use it to encrypt the message. So let's go ahead and download the key. So we have it in here as an attachment. All we have to do is click on download. And as usual, if you click on save, this will only allow you to save it in the Tor browser directory, and it's called johnwick.asc. So I'm going to click on save to save it there. And if we go to our home directory, go to Tor browser, you will see we have the key saved right here. Now I'm actually going to remove this because I also want to show you how to download the key if it was sent as plain text, if it was not sent as an attachment. So we're going to assume that you just got the key like this as text. So if you want to save a key that you got it like this, for example, if you got it as an instant message, or if you saw it on a forum or on an account where the user was sharing their public key so that you can encrypt messages for them, in that case, if you want to start sending encrypted messages to this person using this key, you want to make sure, first of all, you copy the whole key from the start here all the way down to the end. I'm going to right click and copy. And then you want to open a text editor. So we're going to go to accessories. We're going to open our text editor. We're going to paste everything that we copied in here. We're going to save, Control S or click here. And you want to store this in any location that you want. Now, you don't really have to put it into our browser. I'm just going to put it there anyway. And we're just going to call this John Wick again .asc. We're going to click on save. And again, we have the file now. If we go back to this directory, we have the file, the johnwick.asc, and inside it, it has the content of the public key of John. Now, all we have to do is import this public key to our keyring. To do that, again, we have to open the passwords and keys here. And we're going to go to File, Import, and select the key that we want to import. If you couldn't see it here, then make sure you go to the location where you downloaded it. So in my case, it was in Tor browser. And again, we have the key that we want to import in here. Click on Open. It's going to show you the information of this key. Again, like I said, remember, I said anybody who has access to this public key will be able to see your email address. And as you can see, we can actually see John's email address right here, and we can see his name right here, John Wick. That's why it's very important to use your anonymous or fake identity in here. We're going to click on Import to add this key. And now if we click on our GNU PG keys, as you can see, we have John Wick as an entry in here. And as you can see, John Wick in here has an icon of one gold key. We don't see two icons. Going back to John's computer, if we go to the passwords and keys in here, you can see John has two keys in here because this is a key pair. John has his own private key and the public key. But at David's computer, David only has the public key, and that's why we see only one gold icon in here. Again, if you right click this and go to properties, you'll be able to see the name and the email of the key owner. You can see the key ID, and clicking on details, you can see the fingerprint, which, like I said, can be used to verify the owner of the key. And we'll talk all about that later on in the course. For now, we have imported the public key of the person that we want to communicate with. So right now we can start encrypting data and send it to John. And the only person that will be able to see the content of this data is John, because he is the only person that has the private key. Now, so far we have David who wants to send a secret message to John. To do this, John generated a key pair. John also sent the public key to David. David has downloaded the public key and imported it into his key ring. So if we go to David's computer right here, we can see he has John's public key. So right now, David can encrypt data with John's public key, send it to John, and that way John will be the only person who can decrypt this data because he is the only person that has his own private key. Now you'll also notice an extra entry in here. I've actually created a key pair for David in this section right here for the sake of completion. You don't have to do this because, like I said, all we need is John's public key to send data to John. And according to the example we're doing, David will be sending data to John. So all we need is John's public key. I just created a key pair here for David just for the sake of completion so that you can see how this will work in a real life scenario. So we actually don't need to use this anymore because David already has the public key of John. So all you have to do is literally start typing the message that you want to send. To do this, I'm just going to open a text editor. So again, we're going to go to accessories, we're going to open my text editor, and I'm just going to start composing the message. So for this, we're just going to say, hello, this is a secret message sent from David to John. Now, before sending this, we're going to select all of this text, we're going to copy it, and then we're going to go to the clipboard applet, and we're going to click on Sign Encrypt Clipboard with Public Key. We're going to click on this, and as you can see, you get a list of all of the public key that you have on your computer. Now, like I said, all of the ones that start with tails are default public keys added in order to verify the integrity of packages downloaded from tails. You don't want to select any of these. You want to make sure you select the contact that you want to send the message to. And in our example, we want to send the message to John Wick. Now, this is perfectly fine. You can just select it like this and click on OK to encrypt the message. But in this case, even David, so even the sender won't be able to see the contents of the message. If you want to be able to decrypt the contents of the message yourself as well, then you should tick the entry for your own key. So this is David's computer, and if David wants to still be able to see the contents of the message that he's gonna send, he should tick this box. Otherwise, we can just tick John, and the only person in the world that will be able to read the content of this message will be John or anyone who has the private key. But if John is using PGP properly, he should never share the private key with anybody, and therefore, when we encrypt a message with his private key, we can be sure that John will be the only person that can read the content of this message. So, we're gonna click on OK. It's going to ask us if we trust this key. We're going to say yes, we do trust it. And as you can see in here, you can see the icon of the clipboard has changed to indicate that the clipboard right now contains an encrypted text that represents the text that we copied already. So if in the same text editor in here, if I just paste whatever that is in my clipboard, you will see I'll get an encrypted message. And this is basically the content in here encrypted using John's public key. So right now, you can just copy all of this and send it to John using any method of communication. So you can send it as an instant message, you can send it in a chat room, you can send it as an email, you can even put it in a paste bin publicly where anybody can see your message, where anybody can see your secret message. This is the beauty of PGP. You can put this anywhere and nobody will be able to see or read the content of this unless they have the private key of John. And like I said, if John is using PGP properly and he knows what he's doing, he should never share his private key. Therefore, he will be the only person in the world that is able to read the content of this message. Now for this example, to make things easy, I'm going to go back to my email client and I'm just going to reply to this email and we'll put our encrypted message in here. Keep in mind, I'm copying it from the start to the end. I'm going to click on send and that's it, sent to John. So let's go to John's computer. We're going to go to his email account. We're going to refresh the inbox and we're going to click on the message that we just got. And as you can see, this message is encrypted. It's gibberish. We can't really see what David is trying to tell us. So we're going to right click and copy this message. And as soon as we copy it, you'll notice the clipboard icon in here again changes to indicate a lock, to indicate that the clipboard contains encrypted text. We're going to click on this and we're going to say, I want to decrypt or verify my clipboard. it's going to ask me for the passphrase for my key, for John Wick's key. Remember, when we created this key, we had to select a passphrase, and that passphrase will always be required before you can use this private key. So I'm going to put the passphrase that I set when I created this key. I'm going to click on OK. And perfect. As you can see, we can see the contents of the message saying, hello, this is a secret message sent from David to John. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, the receiver shares their public key with the sender uses this public key to encrypt the message, and then they can put the message anywhere or even share it publicly. It doesn't really matter because the only person that can read this message is the person who has the private key. The private key never gets shared. Therefore, this is a very, very good and secure implementation. So now, in this example, John created the key pair, he shared his public key with David, and David was the one encrypting the message and sending it back to John. Now, if John wants to send something back to David, we just have to do the reverse of the process. So David will just have to create his own key pair, share the public key with John, and then John will be able to encrypt messages and share them with David and know that David would be the only one able to read the contents of the messages sent to him.